Nicola, it's so good to have you joining me on the podcast today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
It's such a pleasure. Yeah, I've been really looking forward to having you on the podcast and talking a little bit about your journey in building your jewelry business, Lord Violet Jewelry. And this is an extra special episode because you've also been a member of the Jewelry Business Academy for not very long, for a couple of months. Is it around 3 or 4 months at this
Yeah, about
stage?
3 months now.
3 months, so still in the early days, but I've got to know you over the last 3 months a whole lot better and got to know your jewelry business as well. And I think what you're building is so special. And the journey, obviously, in building your business, you're going to have learned so many lessons, have navigated so many challenges up until this point. And I mean, those challenges are never ending. We're still working through those. But I'm really excited to have you come on here and just share a little bit about your journey in building Lord Violet Jewelry and kind of just so that we can bring you back on in a couple of months as well and hear about the growth and all the other milestones that you've been celebrating over the next year. It's always nice to have like different stages of business as well. So I'm excited to have you here. But before we dive in, do you want to take the stage and do a little intro for everyone so everyone knows who you are, where you're based? I'd love for you to share a little bit about your brand, Lord Violet Jewelry, to give people some context, explain your designs, and also, if you're open to it, share your average price point because it just helps give people some context moving forward in the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, sounds great. So my name is Nicola, and I'm currently based out of Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. And I started Lord Violet in 2016 in Edmonton, Alberta, where I grew up. And I really had honestly been making jewelry and even clothing kind of my whole life. I had a very creative upbringing. And so I was growing up on the prairies, realized I was queer, and designing actually became a way for me to start exploring like my gender expression and my sexuality. And so at some point, I was looking for accessories for myself, and I was really feeling like I just want to be very glamorous and feel seen for being queer, especially as an invisible femme. And for anyone who isn't familiar with what that term means, it's someone who is perceived to be straight because I'm quite feminine. I have long hair. I really love dresses. That's like all I wear. And so I decided that I was looking for those things to express myself and needed kind of a balance for my femininity, like something a bit edgier, more masculine. And so I decided I'm going to have to make my own jewelry line specifically for that. So I kind of took my background in jewelry design, and Lord Violet was born in order to fill that niche for a jewelry line that is a bit more, it's subversive, it kind of challenges the norms of what people are supposed to wear, and gives a different expression for more alternative people.
I love that so much. And we'll probably release the video of this as well because I think you're wearing some of your pieces so people can see some of the pieces. But we'll also be linking your Instagram so they can take a look. And I love how Lord Violet was born out of like filling a need for yourself first. I always find that's the best type of business where it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm looking for. It's not like, oh, this is what I think the market wants. It's like, no, this is what I'm looking for. And this is what feels like really authentic to me. And when we do that and then we show up authentically and then we start marketing our business in that authentic way, we draw in the right people who are like, oh my gosh, I needed this too. Thank goodness you're here. Thank
Mm.
goodness you're creating these pieces. So talk to us a little bit about like navigating the launch because you're full time in your business right now. Am I right?
Yes.
And so before you went full time, like what was it like when you launched this business?
It's kind of a long story, but to keep it short and sweet, I would say I officially launched it after I moved to Montreal. So I actually have a background in laboratory and sciences, which my parents kind of pushed me to go in. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
really feeling like my original plan of being a clothing designer was maybe going to be a stable income for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into that field. I worked as a lab technologist for 7 years. But while I was working as a lab tech, I just slowly went part time. And I had kind of always been doing a bit of a side project. So my clothing design first, and then eventually the clothing line morphed more into jewelry. So Lord Violet did start as clothing. Um, and so eventually I decided like, I need to move the city and start my dream of really pursuing like jewelry design, or else I'll never do it. So I had to
Mm.
quit my job, and then moving allowed me to make that decision. And I would say it was like after I kind of got settled down and established in Montreal, I was able to finally pursue it full time.
That's so exciting. I mean, that's really brave to quit your job that you've been in for 7 years, that career, move across Canada. It's interesting because I think you were in Edmonton, which is like the side of Canada where I am now, and you've moved to where I was before. But Montreal's so beautiful, and I feel like it draws in a lot of artists and a lot of creatives. And I can totally see how that environment and that space is also just going to make it easier on one level to pursue your creative pursuits and build this business. Um, how did you find your environment impacted your business?
It's been a world of difference, honestly. Um, since I moved to Montreal, I've just been able to do a lot of things that was finding really difficult in Edmonton. And you kind of don't know what you don't have until you do have it.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that I started being able to do here, oh, it's a long list, but I started with silversmithing school, and that really put me into contact with a lot of resources that I needed in order to push my design further. Um, so far, up until fairly recently, my jewelry was more described as like costume jewelry, which just means I curate all the pieces and I choose all the pieces and then put it together, but I don't have as much control over the design aspect of
Mm-hmm.
things. So since moving here, I was able to get into contact with people who um, can help me with a three-dimensional design of my work, and then get it a 3D design, and then get it cast in metal. So then I have control over the whole process, and it really allows me to do a lot more complex things with my work. So some of the contacts included people who do the designs, and then also the casting houses, because in Edmonton we had one place that cast, and like I'm grateful for them, but it was also quite expensive. Um, so yeah, I guess basically just being able to go to school, make new contacts, be exposed to amazing skills or people that have amazing skills that can help me bring my designs to life, and then yeah, able to have a
Mm.
more complex line.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's incredible how much your environment does impact your business. And it's not to say that you can't build a successful business in different cities. You certainly can. But certain places and certain environments just have a different energy. They have more of a community of other people on a similar path, and they have more resources. And so I love that you made that move, and I love that you kind of settled in there. I know you're very at home in Montreal from what we can see. Now, one of the things I really want to talk to you about, Nicola, is your niche, because here's what you have done so well, and I absolutely love, and this is where I see a lot of designers going wrong, is a lot of people try to appeal to everyone. So they'll be like, oh, I want this like bold, edgy jewelry, but I also have a friend or some people who need something slightly less edgier. So I'll make some pieces that are just going to appeal to them more. And then I have some people who want it in this material. And then I have some people who want this. And they kind of dilute their brand. And what you've done so well is you're like, this is my brand. This is the vibe we're going for. And you've like doubled down on that. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. And that's what makes it so, so good, because the best brands are going to repel people. Because when you repel people and you push people away, it means other people are so drawn in, they're obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Think of any brand out there. It's like Taylor Swift. I'm obviously obsessed. Some people hate her, some people love her, but nobody really feels neutral. Same thing
Mm-hmm.
with Trump. You know, people hate him, people love him, but nobody's really neutral. Those are the best brands where it's like, hey, we're not here for everyone, but the people who love this, we're here for you. Come in, come like enjoy these pieces. And you've done that so, so well. And I want to give you a shout out, Nicola, because that's really hard. It's a very vulnerable thing to do. It's a very scary thing to be like, hey, this is what we're here for. This is the style we're making. If you love it, amazing. If it's not your cup of tea, that's okay. And I'm not going to cater to like what it is that you're looking for. So talk to us about your journey, because I don't know if it was always that easy for you to do that, but where you are right now is it's a very strong niche that you've got. You've got a really strong collection. And it really stands out above the noise, because the reality is there's a ton of jewelry businesses out there and yours stands out.
Yeah, I think actually moving to Montreal really helped me feel like, yes, there is other people out there looking for what I'm doing. Because I knew there's other queer folks that were looking for their gender to be affirmed and their sexuality to be celebrated. But then coming here, I just started to discover all of these communities, um, usually through markets, and connect with my people. So
Mhm.
we had a little bit of that in Edmonton, but like we kind of just had one or two big markets, and it was everybody. Anyone and everyone creating was coming together.
Mhm.
And I'm still, after 6 years of being here, I'm still finding more things that are even more catered to me and my community. So that's really cool and exciting, to be able to go to a market that's actually just celebrating erotic art. And
Mhm.
then, say, another market that's more so geared towards kind of like gothy and the occult. And so my jewelry kind of fits in little different pockets. And there's just all this overlap between kind of underground communities here, that have their specific markets celebrating very niche aesthetics.
Mhm.
Um, so there's kind of been that. And then just realizing, I think, again, at the beginning, like I really struggled with, okay, so I have these different products. It started to become really obvious to me, like, what I wanted to design, because it takes a while to like get the ball rolling and figure out like what it is that you really want to do. And
Mhm.
so I was making bolo ties. And for anyone that doesn't know what a bolo tie is, it's a necklace like this that has an adjustable pendant, and is inspired by the cowboy accessory, but has been really reclaimed by the queer community. So I was making bolo ties, but then like kind of big collars. And I would describe them as like pieces of brass, adorned with other details, and then like chokers, necklaces, earrings. And so at first I was like, how does all this fit in together? Like, how am
Mhm.
I going to have a niche with all these different pieces? But then I just had to keep bringing it back to like, well, I think it's probably other folks who share the same interests as myself, who just love different underground subcultures, and usually queer people, not all of them, but are into kind of like fetish culture, or BDSM, and punk music, and body mods, body modifications, tattoos, and stuff. So we do share a lot of those things in common. And I was like, okay, this seems like a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to put this all together. And if I have a cohesive aesthetic and a unified vision of like, yes, it's inspired by underground subculture, like, let's see if this works. So that's really been kind of the process of trying to figure out, can I make this niche work?
Mm. I love how you kind of you found those pieces that you were drawn to, you brought those to life, and then it's figuring out, yeah, like what's the niche here, who's going to resonate with this. And you did such a great job with this, Nicola. And what I really love is on Instagram and stuff, you have conviction in what you're selling. That's what I pick up. Like you are obsessed with your pieces, and then that comes through so well. And that makes a difference when you're selling your pieces as well, because people want to know that what they're buying is something that whoever's selling it is also obsessed with. They have conviction in, they're wearing it all the time. Has that always been easy for you to show up and like promote your pieces and wear your pieces? Or have you gone through stages where you because you're pouring your heart and soul into essentially your art, and then you're putting a price tag on it and selling it. Have you ever felt any blocks around doing that, or has it always felt like you have so much conviction in what you're doing that it feels easy?
Well, yeah, it's definitely been a challenge because I love so much what I do, like making the jewelry and the reason behind it. But then being able to transform that from the creation and the creative aspect to actually kind of having to be a business person has
Mm-hmm.
been a challenge, because then you have to find ways, at least for me, like my whole jewelry line is based on authenticity and like sharing who you are with the world, even when it doesn't kind of fit into the mold. And so then I have to try and figure out ways that feel authentic to me to share that. And so, because maybe social media and content creation I wouldn't say it comes super naturally to me. I've had to figure out the ways that feel good, and also like that I'll I'll be able to hit it just once in a while, and it's slowly coming. But I'll have these moments I'm just feeling like really kind of silly, and like the things I love are like getting dressed up and dancing and like making videos and stuff. So when I can capture those moments and share them, I'm like, oh, that's it. Like that feels good. So it's really just kind of being able to have those moments and rest in that space, and then find ways to share them that feel like not so much of a struggle. It feels easy, feels fun, feels light, and then people can get an idea of like what my brand's about. But yeah, it hasn't always been
Mm.
it's been a journey.
Yeah, you know what? I love how you focusing on the feeling behind the brand in that promotion, because I think a lot of designers get caught up in that as well. It's like, oh, we think we're selling a product, and it's like, no, we're selling a feeling, especially with jewelry. And it's so important to market that feeling. And you know how you shared, you're sharing like the dance videos or whatever, and they can feel that energy, they can feel that feeling that they're buying into when they're buying into your brand as well. So I really love that, Nicola. And talk to us, like, what would your advice be for somebody who is like struggling to connect to their niche?
Well, from like JBA, like the Jewelry Business Academy, honestly, I've learned a lot about, yeah, it's finding kind of how you want your clients to feel, and yeah, the people that are wearing your jewelry, what they get to express about themselves. And it's like these things about ourselves that we really love, but we don't always know how to share them. And so I think it's if they're creating jewelry that is doing something for them, asking themselves, well, what is that it does for me, and how can I explain that? Because it is difficult to take that feeling and say, well, what, like it took me so long to say, what is it that people are searching to say,
Mm-hmm.
and also in ways that don't feel kind of cheesy and stuff. So I think it's really just going back to like how you feel, taking time to ask yourself, yeah, how do I feel? And how would I say that in a way if I was just very casually talking about it instead of kind of these cookie cutter things that we see so often around us?
Yeah, there's an abundance of cookie cutter Instagram bios, that's for sure. And it is hard to sometimes identify that niche. And I love that advice, Nicola, because you're so right. It's about like really tuning in and figuring out like what feels authentic to you, because that's the easiest way to build a brand that stands out is like to go inwards first. And a lot of people go outwards first and they're looking at like, well, what brands are successful? Let's kind of replicate that vibe. And then you can feel that disconnect when somebody's selling something that it doesn't really align with them. Um, and yeah, it sometimes takes time and sometimes you're pivoting. And I mean, we've spoken about this as well with your offer. I think it's very natural as well to refine and adjust your offer every few months or years as well, depending on what stage of business you're in. And so for anyone listening who's like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure, I'm like struggling, that's okay. You know, you get started, you don't wait for it to be perfect, you let it be what it is, and you slowly refine over time and you slowly get more clarity with taking action and with selling your pieces and with having conversations with other people and with like really doing some deep diving into like what's that feeling that you're essentially selling and how does
Mm-hmm.
that stand out from what everyone else is selling as well. And so you've obviously been in the Jewelry Business Academy, I think we're saying for about 3 months now. So you're still very new in there. And I'd love to chat a little bit about your experience of being in the academy so far. But before we even talk about being in the academy, can you do a little throwback to about 3 months ago before you decided to join? Well, you actually decided to join a long time ago, but you came in 3 months ago. Um, but do you remember what challenges you were dealing with before you decided to join and what made you decide, like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready for support?
Yeah, so I had been listening to Jewelry Business your podcast.
The one we're on right
um,
now. Full
this one.
circle. I love it. I love
um,
these like full circle moments. It's so fun.
It's so lovely, honestly. Yeah, I can't believe that I'm kind of here now, because I had been listening to you for a really long time and just basically being a business owner without having a lot of structure and kind of you have to be really self taught. Um, there's really no guidebook to follow. So I was listening to your podcast, and over and over again, the theme of the podcast was finding ways to connect with your people and your community. And so I just kept thinking about that. And I felt like that was the missing piece for when I was doing my social media and marketing. It just felt like it wasn't hitting and there was a disconnect there. And so I was also just feeling a bit unstructured. Like, I kind of was having trouble prioritizing like what I wanted to do. There's just so many options of like how you can
Mm,
grow your business. And when you don't know, you just are slowly piecing it together. And it's great, but it's a lot of trial and error. So, yeah, that would have been kind of at that time, I guess, just feeling a bit disorganized. And then, like that my social media wasn't where it needed to be.
mm. Yeah, that's so interesting because you're right. There are so many different things you can be doing in a business and your jewelry business as you're growing. And it's hard to know, like, okay, well, what am I doing when and which ones should I be cutting? What should I be prioritizing? But was there anything that made you almost not sign up for the academy? I'm always curious to hear.
I think I just wasn't sure. There's so many offers out there promising to give you success, and it's hard to know who's real, And
Mm.
so yeah, I think that was my hesitation of like, will it deliver what it says it's going to deliver?
And what kind of gave you the confidence to move forward with it?
I think because it was offering, or it was suggesting that it offered something that I was so specifically looking for, like that it will help with connecting to my audience.
Mm.
That really felt important. I felt like also just the amount of podcasts kind of showed your commitment to doing what you do. Like it seemed like you had a lot of experience. Um, and I think just getting to a point where I was like a bit frustrated with, like, just so frustrated with where I was, that I'm like, I'm willing to try something different.
Mm. Yeah, that's so interesting because it is sometimes hard to take that leap and like try something because also you don't know how you're going to show up. You don't know if like how it's going to go until you actually go and do it. But it's always, in my experience, better just to take that leap and try things, at least be doing things and move in different directions. But talk to us about how you feel now. You've been in for just 3 months. You're still in the early stages of the program. For anyone listening who doesn't know, our program's typically a year long because the reality is like life happens. People fall off track, they get back on track. And we need people to be consistent long term because we're here for like sustainable growth, essentially. But talk to us about how you feel so far, 3 months in.
Yeah, a lot of relief, honestly, with, again, it comes back to social media stuff because it is a big driver of our sales. And so it just made everything like, I just had that huge aha moment of, oh, this is the whole goal. And so, there's this big focus, or I just had this totally wrong or misconception of kind of like what an Instagram account is supposed to do.
Mhm.
And so, learning that you really want to connect with your people first, and just putting a picture of a piece of jewelry in front of them isn't going to do that. Yeah, so I think it has changed my relationship with social media and made it a lot more approachable. And then it's fairly isolating also being a sole entrepreneur, and so the connection and community that has come out of it has been super helpful. Like we have our meetings every week. We get to show up, see other people that are in the same space as us. Feel free to like ask any questions. And that has been just like overall good for feeling good about doing my business. I feel like I don't have to be sitting with all these questions that I have like unanswered that I've had for so long. So yeah, it feels really nice to kind of feel like I'm making a lot of progress.
I love that. I love hearing that, Nicola. And so it's wonderful as well hearing that you're feeling like you're making more progress and that realization when it comes to Instagram. It's interesting how many people have that misconception. And when you finally understand like how to start connecting, and it takes practice and it takes repetition. But when you recognize like, wait, we need to connect before we start selling, and here's how we kind of do that, it does shift how we are able to show up. But talk to me about like what would you say? There's obviously so many components to the Jewelry Business Academy. We have the group coaching calls, the Facebook community, the online training. What would you say has been your favorite part of the whole program?
Because I'm a bit of a dork, I'm gonna say the like spreadsheets and tracking system.
You are the
um,
first person to say that. I love that.
I just love it. There's nothing more satisfying than checking something off of a to-do list. I don't, yeah, well, I'll talk about the community aspect after, but like honestly, just having structure to my day is like, that's the thing that I craved. And so because the JBA is such a nice linear process, you feel like you can just do, there's like small manageable tasks that it's broken up into, and then once you get one done you can move on to the next. So you can actually, like, I just feel so satisfied being like check for that day, and like it's by day, manageable amounts of like tasks for that day. And then of course, yeah, the community or the group calls and being able to connect is like, I have to say that's a really nice component too.
Well, I love hearing that. And yeah, it's so interesting. I've never had somebody talk about the checklist, but yeah, I think you're working through the 90-day blueprints and we have the tracking system. So I can see where people are at as well. And I'm glad to hear that that's like already like a favorite part of yours. And so when it comes to the group coaching calls, did you have any hesitation when you're like here, when you heard the word group coaching? Were you like, because some people feel that way and I understand, but like, talk to us about like how you felt about the concept of group coaching and how you actually feel having experienced it.
Yeah, I think at the beginning I just wasn't really sure what that was going to look like, and if it was going to be like chaotic or how it was going to be managed. Because, yeah, in my experiences in the past, sometimes it's so important for the facilitator to be able to kind of like take control and like manage it very well. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's not an easy task, but I feel like the structure of it feels like everybody has like space to share and ask the questions that they need, and we still manage to like get all the questions answered in a reasonable amount of time. And then I'm able to like, while people are asking their questions, I can just like work on my jewelry and like multitask. So I feel like it's always a productive use of time. And there's been so many questions that other people ask, like even though we're all in different parts of our journey, there can be some repetition. But I feel like there's a lot of times where people ask questions where I either had something similar, or I had that exact question, and it's just been able to like help answer that. So
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. And yeah, it's so interesting because sometimes, I mean, everyone, even at different stages, there's a lot of overlapping questions and there's a lot that we can learn. And for newer business owners, I find sometimes, and you're not newer, but I'm saying for newer ones in the academy, sometimes it's like they don't even know the questions to us. So the benefit to being in that group and having people further ahead is just so immense. But obviously, so you're only 3 months in, but talk to us about some of the wins, big or small, that you've celebrated since joining the JBA.
yeah, so having like a biz bestie, someone to check in with, kind of almost accountability partner is really lovely. And basically like restructuring my whole social media approach is huge for me. It feels really, really good. What else? Yeah, just slowly making my way through the modules and feeling like, okay, I now almost have a structure for any time I want to like work on a new project, launch a new collection, then the steps are just like super simple. So I feel like that's been, yeah, it feels really nice.
Amazing. And so when this gets released, it will be a couple of weeks after the recording date. But a couple of days ago, you joined our live goal setting coaching call. And I'd love to just hear your, like, how that impacted you, because what I recognized on that call was we got everyone, not everyone was sharing, but most people were sharing their financial goals, the revenue streams really openly on that call. And I think for a lot of people, it was very beneficial to see, like, oh, here's what's possible. Here's numbers that are realistic. Here's kind of what maybe is possible for me too, and is not unrealistic for me to aim for. What was your like favorite takeaway and experience from that call?
Oh yeah, that was really great because hearing what other people's numbers were, like I don't talk to everybody or a lot of other artists about money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so hearing what people's goals were and what they're kind of attaining now, they were really like admirable and inspirational. Like I was like, whoa, if they're able to do that, then like what are they doing and how do I get there? And so knowing, okay, this is basically like this is what they did, like the things that were in like the group or in the
Mm-hmm.
JBA program, they did those and they're reaching their goals. So um, yeah, that's pretty exciting to be like, okay, this is the thing that works, and if I follow it, then I can reach the goals that I have for myself.
I love that. And so, for somebody listening who's maybe feeling how you were feeling a couple of months ago, feeling a little stuck in their business, dealing with some challenges, and feeling like, you know what, I feel like I want to come join the JVA, get that support, but they're feeling a little anxious, like, what would your advice be to them? And would you recommend the Jewelry Business Academy to them?
Yeah, I would definitely say that if they just want to make their life a lot easier now, like it's so worth. I think we're scared to invest in ourselves and invest in our business. And yeah, I know that's hard at the beginning of things when you're not sure if you really want to do it. But I would say that it's so worth investing in yourself in that way. And instead of spending all that time doing trial and error, you can just like go into it and have a way that's kind of tried and true, which is, yeah, took me too long to do that.
Yeah, it does make such a difference because I've built businesses with and without support, and it's just not even comparable. So thank you for sharing that, Nicola. And while we're talking about your journey and the lessons learned in building your jewelry business, obviously now you're like what I'd consider like an established designer. You have your niche. You're like from Instagram, obviously, I know we talked about this earlier. You're still building confidence in some areas of showing up on Instagram, but in general, like you're pretty confident. And I'd love to know if you've dealt with imposter syndrome when it comes to being a designer and having that label on.
Yeah, I think it's always been a question of like, can I actually do this long term? Because like I was lucky to be in that space for my whole life, like designing, creating. So that feels like such a big and natural part of me. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's the whole like business side of thing. Like that's the imposter syndrome where I'm like, but am I a business person that can take
Yeah.
my designs and put them out in the world? So I think that's been the hardest part of, or that's been the imposter syndrome aspect for me.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And so, for somebody listening who's like, oh my gosh, me too, what's your advice for them?
I would say just like get help, ask for, find community, find support, and yeah, don't like it's great to learn on your own, and I think there's a lot of strengths to doing trial and error. You figure out what doesn't work, but I think it's just worth going, like committing to it, and then finding the support that you need in whatever way that works for you.
Yeah, I love that so much. And also, when we're talking about imposter syndrome, like what I do also recommend to everyone listening is if you never feel imposter syndrome, you're not doing the uncomfortable things. You're not putting yourself out there enough. So there's actually value in recognizing sometimes, like, oh, I'm uncomfortable here and I feel like an imposter. It just means we're also trying new things on a level. Obviously, I agree with you when it comes to like the business thing. If you're feeling like an imposter when it comes to building a business, well, yeah, you can either stack evidence over time, like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm seeing evidence that I can build a business, because everybody listening to this is building their business. It just depends on like what that timeline is. Um, but yeah, imposter syndrome is also a good thing on one level because it just tells us like, hey, we're trying new things, we're getting uncomfortable. Because if you just stay in the same place your whole life, you will never experience imposter syndrome, and that's not healthy either, in my opinion. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I totally agree with you, Nicola. But I'd love to know, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like us to chat about or like to
Um,
share with anyone listening?
yeah, well, the one thing I think that I wish that someone would have told me at the very beginning of my journey was like that some of these things just take time.
Yeah.
And so I think I was in a rush to be the like not the biggest and the best, but you know, I wanted to be successful immediately. And uh also know, you know, what it was that I was doing, like have an amazing Instagram right off the bat, and you know, be making the best jewelry that I could, but then realize like you might not know those things. It takes a
Mm.
little while to like get to know yourself, and so it's just like taking it at a reasonable pace, and don't, I guess, trying not to stress out too much about that, because it will come like naturally.
That's the best advice. I completely agree with you. So many people put timelines on their dreams, and I'm like, if building this jewelry business is the ultimate dream, if it fulfills you in terms of giving you a sense of deep purpose, it makes you excited to wake up on a Monday morning and work on it. It gives you flexibility to do other things in your life as well. If this is like a really big dream of yours, and again, brings in the income and all of that down the line, it's like, why would we put a timeline of, oh, if I don't see results in 6 weeks, I'm out. If I don't see results in 3 years, I'm out. Because what people do instead is they're like, oh no, like I'm not going to spend 2 years or 3 years getting this business to a place where it's great, or 4 years even. You know, I have a podcast that went out today with one of my clients where she shares her journey and she shares the numbers, and it took her it took her a while to get to where she is now, but suddenly the momentum is building, and her husband's going to be joining her company in the next few months as well, and leaving his job and going full time with her. And
Wow.
it's like, yeah, in the early first 2-3 years, that wasn't possible. It was harder. It did take time. But it's like, why would we put a timeline on our dreams? Because instead, we go and work a 9 to 5. And this is no shade to people who love 9 to 5. Great. If it works for you, great. But if it's really like eating you up inside and you're saying, this is what I really want to be doing, but you're not willing to sacrifice 2 to 3 years and let it take some time, what you're actually doing is sacrificing 40 to 50 years instead, working for someone else and never actually seeing those returns. You know, that's just spreading out the pain, I think,
Hmm.
over 40 years, but in like bite-sized daily things that we can take, rather than just being like, yeah, 2-3 years of like, you know, the ups and downs of business, but ultimately we're working towards our dream. And hey, maybe it's longer than 3 years. Maybe, you know, for everybody that timeline's different, but that is such great advice, and I completely agree. But Nicola, this has been so much fun. Thank you for joining me on the podcast, and I can't wait to bring you back on in a couple of months and talk about just your journey, the milestones that you're celebrating, probably some more challenges that are coming up. But I know you're going to have inspired a lot of our listeners, and they're going to want to follow along and connect with you on your journey and take a look at your jewelry. So, where can our listeners find you, and how can they support you?
Yeah, so if people want to connect and say hi on Instagram, I'm Lord_Violet. So I'd love if you sent me a message and said hi there. If you do want to check out my website and see my pieces, they're brass and alternative. My website is lordviolet.ca.
Amazing. We will link those in the show notes so you guys can go click and connect with Nicola right away. But yeah, thank you so much, Nicola. And I cannot wait for next time.
Thanks, Robyn.